Oh, that's great. So people will
And
ask
I think we are live. My name is Christian Friedrich, coming to you from Hamburg in Germany. We're reconnecting with the CC Summit in Toronto, Canada, where it is 10 a.m. So on-site folks, do you want to give a quick introduction? And then we'll hand over to the virtual participants.
Hi, my name is Lisette Kalshoven. I'm from Amsterdam. I'm very happy to be here. At this summit, I'm a track leader for the policy and advocacy track, and we've been talking a lot about copyright reform and about how we can work better together. So if there are any questions on that, I will be happy to discuss. And I'm here with Alek.
Yeah, my name is Alek Tarkowski. I come from Poland, where, among other things, I coordinate Creative Commons Poland. I wanted to say that this being my third virtually connecting session, I feel pretty, good. And I'm introducing to this community my friend. It's her first time. But yeah, I still remember my first time. It was very nice.
And I think it was with you, wasn't it, Christian?
Yes, I remember the first one. And I think we had to explain what we're actually doing during the Hangout.
I have no idea what was going on, but it felt nice and friendly, so I liked it.
And I think I was in the room from my house. You were in OER Berlin, and I was in here in Ontario talking to you guys. And you were in Arizona.
Oh, wow. With nice chairs.
Yes.
So this is practically a reunion.
Every virtually connected feels.
Oh, it's normal for them. Okay.
Right. So who else is there on site? I have seen Helen and I have seen Alan.
Where's Alan?
There he is.
See Alan? And we have Lenora. We're introducing Lenora to Virtually Connecting, so she can take over with some Virtually Connecting sometime in the future.
Perfect. So the virtual folks, do you want to give a quick introduction of yourselves, where you're based, what it is that you do? Matt, would you want to start, or Graham? Whoever wants to go first.
I'm Mark Wilson. I'm a retired scientific glassblower and community college student in Oakland, California, where it's now 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning.
Congratulations.
All right, Graham.
Hi, my name is Graham Steele from Glasgow in Scotland. I'm an open science enthusiast, and I'm following this event via Twitter, live streaming it, and also virtually connecting. And being Scottish, I'm having a nice glass of iron brew.
Oh,
it's about that time. So how's CC Summit so far? How's it treated you?
I'm a little bit hungover, I have to admit. We went dancing last night at a very nice bar. And I think that's also something that really sets CC Summits apart from most other events that you go to, that it's really a warm bath of family feeling when you're with your CC in the crowd. And I think it's amazing that we got together so soon after last one in Seoul. That was only a year and a half ago. So we can really work better together physically, as well as the most virtual way we usually do. So I've been quite happy.
And I think you sort of need to understand that both I and Lisette, there are a lot of different circles that are sometimes concentric, sometimes overlapping, and the one we're in is the sort of the affiliate team. So we have a community like yours, kind of. I don't think we're so diligent in meeting online. We should be. I can talk a bit about it. So for us, it's like a big holiday, but at the same time, I think I don't want it to sound like we're just locking ourselves up in our little CC team world. It's also a very good place to just meet people. And that's for me really interesting, because the tendency to purely probably due to lack of time, we self-select, we already don't have these CC people. So to see how this is interesting for others who approach it from some other perspective, I think that's the good thing here. But one thing I need to say, this event is one of those that get really big. It's 3 days. By now, I feel like maybe it could have finished yesterday and I would have been happy, but there's still work to do. The sessions are very meaningful to us today. And there are usually 5 of them. So, it's one of these events where you feel you're just getting a little slice of the big story.
All right.
the one piece that I just observed, that this really is a global summit.
Yes.
As I said, I'm talking to somebody who at breakfast who works in Morocco, in a Moroccan context, and sitting at the first session with someone from Uganda who's working now in New York, and open source and Creative Commons is the common conversation, but it's bringing people together that may have never seen each other. And I think with virtually connecting, being able to extend that conversation out beyond here, I think is really beneficial.
So for instance, you can approach it differently, and we structured it into tracks. Lisette had advocacy and policy, but even then it's like some of it is about, for instance, OER and open education policy. Some of it is about copyright reform. I did one called Future of the Commons, which is like a really broad bag, which I'm happy is there. It's basically a way of saying we need to talk about future strategy, how things change. I personally think CC sometimes gets a bit stuck in business as usual mode. We have these licenses, they've been around, let's talk about them.
That's scale.
I believe let's have sessions that like push this ahead, but it's really broad. Range of topics, and I think this is maybe the best. For me, it's not an event where I do a lot of open education policy work. I didn't go, I went to one session. I don't really have time, but I'm not worried. I think I get to listen a lot to open education. What is good here is to talk a bit here about, I don't know, hardware or something, and build the connections for yourself.
That's what I've really enjoyed as well being here, is that I work on copyright reform on a daily basis together with Alek. I also follow the OER community as much as I can. We were in London a couple of weeks ago at OER 17, which I very much enjoyed. And I am sometimes worried that we don't connect these two communities as well as we should, because in my head, the OER community and fighting for copyright reform for education is the same thing. But because we are in our own little bubbles, usually we don't connect as clearly as we can. And I think now being able to talk a little bit more about the other open education people, not just from Europe, but throughout the entire world, we get to really make sure, like, hey, we're in this together, we're in the same fights, let's help each other out a little bit. And we're actually campaigning right now for copyright reform for education. So if you are listening, and you are, I can see you guys, please go to writecopyrights.eu. It's a campaign of getting a better copyright for education. If you're from the OER community, if you're from the CC community, or all other communities that you're in, sign a petition, help us get better education across Europe, and therefore trickling down to all the other parts in the world. So let's, help each other out a bit. And I think these events are really a great opportunity to make sure that, hey, we look each other in the eye and we're like, oh yeah, we're fighting for the same thing, So
it's a beautiful cycle.
Yeah. Thank you. Well,
So-
the Young Design Company created us. They're our neighbors in Amsterdam. They do fabulous work.
You gave me an idea, right?
Yeah, well, a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to point to that work that you do at Communio, because those are two circles that you make overlap, basically, right? You're one of those people who tries to make those two circles of policy and reform and education overlap, which I really appreciate. Thanks. Graham, you posted a question in the chat, which I think is directed to Lisette. Is that right?
Whether we're in touch with Julia.
Whether we're in touch with Julia Leda, yes. Of all the members of European Parliament that are now discussing the law, she's by far the most progressive.
Yes.
In the context of the Parliament, also the most radical. And she's really advocating for copyright that works. It's also very difficult for her to maintain that position within the Parliament, because she is on the radical side. But we try to work with her as much as we can, really discussing the fine tunes of what the law should look like. It's really very nice to have someone as a politician who understands the issue so well as she does. So you can really spend 2 hours with her being like, no, the comma should be there. And she gets what you're getting at. We don't necessarily agree on all things, we're different people, but I really like discussing things with her, and she's very open to the conversation with all types of people as well. So I really appreciate that about her and her office.
So it's, I think it'd be interesting to say that, in our association, Comunio, we try to cover the whole reform, which addresses a lot of issues. But we said we focus on education. And education is interesting because we feel if done right, it's non-controversial. You know, not many people can criticize you for saying education needs to be improved. Well, of course, they will simply ignore you. They will never say it publicly, but for copyright reasons. But that's why this is interesting, that you can go also to other members of parliament, even sort of from the more conservative groups in terms of copyright. And if you find people there who understand it, there's a Polish MEP. He's from a right-wing party. My personal politics are very different, but it was interesting to see him really understand it at some basic level. And I think the reason he understood it is that he's not involved in copyright debate. You know, he doesn't follow what publishers say. It's not for him about some money issues. He brought the subjects is brought to him, and when it's presented as an issue, like let's balance needs of creators who want to make money with needs of educators who want to teach, he's saying, teaching is good. And I like this, that we were involved in copyright reform for a while, and sometimes it just gets so antagonistic. It's hard. This feels more like building an understanding. Another point I want to make, we're in Canada. Canada is for us a very interesting point of reference. Canada has pretty good laws for education. And having said that, it's like a bit of a challenge, you know, to understand what goes on in Canada, then explain it to others. I'm mentioning this because this summit helps a bit. You know, this is again a place where you see the first step is inspiration. So you see a member of Ontario government come and say they want to be, it's called open. Open by default.
Open by default.
Yeah, and then you see like really powerful people. There's this law professor called Michael Geis. You know, I wish my top copyright professor wrote the type of articles he does in the Canadian Global Mail or something like that. The best Polish law professor. He's okay. He's not like deeply buried in some corporation, but the only way he will comment copyright is by making hypotheses. He says, like, hypothetically, we could have a society where something, and this guy goes like, come on, let's do it. So it's nice. It's nice to see how many countries are trying to do something with copyright all around the world in so different places, like Colombia, New Zealand, and you get this sense. So I think it's really important that it's like the global thing, you know? And then the next step is figuring out how to have time and energy to work on this together, which is always a challenge.
No, and I think that the interaction between now the copyright reform going on in Europe, but also there's a law review of copyright coming up in Canada as well, is that we from copyright from Europe are trying to incorporate the good things that you guys have in Canada, you know, to our law. But now, in like here, you guys could actually block back all the good things that you have in that review if we screw up in Europe, because we want to, you know, in free trade agreements and stuff, they want people to be similar in their IP laws. So we don't do things in isolation. If you guys have got something good, we have a better chance of copying it. If we screw it up, it's a bigger shot that you're going to have worse laws as well. So these types of events are a great opportunity to be like, okay, so what's your strategy? What are the opportunities that you see, not only being very defensive in what we do, but being very positive and getting a positive change agenda across the globe for copyright. You know, go offense, not defense. If we work together, we got enough, you know, brain power and wit and bootstrap initiatives to get stuff going. So I'm always very inspired when I go to these things live instead of typing up my day every day.
Yeah, thanks for posting the link to Michael Geisen in the chat as well, Mark. Thanks. I'm wondering, because I think we have like five-ish more minutes, if that's correct. So if there are any questions that Mark or Graham that are on your minds at this point, otherwise I'll just go ahead and.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's the top article on Michael Geist's copyright page right now. Have you had any discussions about Australia's review of their copyright laws? Apparently they're looking to Canada as a more liberal copyright space. And I just wonder if there's any discussion there in Toronto that you've seen about the Australian reform.
Yes. We're very lucky to have Delia Brown with us. She's the head of the Copyright Union down in Australia. She really is a great advocate for copyright reform, for education, but also for flexible copyright reform. She's been working on that for years, and it's really working. We have several like official bodies stating like, yes, flexible copyright is a good idea, and it is. The cool thing is that we're in this like information sharing little group between the Canadians, the Australians, and the Europeans to try to strengthen each other in this discussion. So the interesting thing is that if we do research in Europe, if you guys do research in Canada or in Australia, we share that, and then it really amplifies each other's stories on, yes, and what I'm very excited about is that I'm also been talking now more with people from South America and from Asia. We're actually in the same fight, but we don't talk to on a day-to-day basis type of thing. So if we're growing our group a little bit more, and we're working on this work program called the Copyright Reform Platform. That's part of the new Creative Commons strategy that we're now finalizing. We're going to be so much more effective in achieving our goals that we share across the globe in the broader network. So having, you know, when you get to be in a room together with Michael Geis, with Lisette Brown, with people like Adio Katz, and if I can put Alek in the little room in the corner somewhere as well, that's a great opportunity. Oh, you that same thing. What do you answer to that question? What does your ministry talk about this? Oh yeah, I have this resource that can help. It's very practical, but it's very, very useful. So it's a good crowd.
So I am aware of the time, and I do want to make sure we get to the next session so the doors aren't locked when we get there. So thank you.
Can I just say one thing? I probably should write it to your whole community. For me, what you do is inspiration, you know, in terms of bringing people together. We're not as good in Creative Commons. We have all these people, but we don't get together on video chats several times a year, like on a rotating, of course, basis. So I'm really happy we managed to do this here at the summit. This didn't happen before. I hope we can somehow show over time, you know, maybe we're both engaging with your community and copying from you, to be honest, this model. I personally really find it very important. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Well,
We'll make sure that Maha gets a chance to hear that.
I think I told her that in London already. So I repeat that a lot.
we'll all fall asleep smiling now.
Thanks for, you know, spending your Sunday with us. We're in conference mode. We forgot it's weekend, but we have normal lives.
You guys can crash out.
All right.
See you next one.
Okay. So it was a very small group of virtual participants, but I like the points they made. Anything on your side that you want to add, Mark?
I guess just one the comments. That was the keynotes for the event have been streamed. There's also a lot of other rich content that I've not been able to follow. But I was just wondering if anybody wasn't attending any of the sessions in relation to the text and data mining.
I'm sorry, it might be just me, Graham, but I think you're breaking up a bit. Would you mind to repeat it or to the chat and I can read it out or something like that? Sorry.
While Graham's typing, I'm just looking forward to the new certificates, I guess they're going to be called, from Creative Commons. I'm about 2 or 3 kilometers from their office, so I can't wait to you know, take the online portion and then take the BART train under the bay and then go over and visit their office for the whatever test or whatever they're going to do. I've been following along with Alan Levine's work on this, and I was just thinking when everybody was talking, it's interesting. I mean, Creative Commons to me is just a tool, and it seems like, you know, this conference is sort of like a bunch of woodworkers having a conference about a hammer. But
Yeah, look at this new hammer I got.
yeah, exactly. It's like let's
Different
all
hammers they have in
go to
Australia.
Toronto and talk about this new hammer, because obviously and it's woven through the conference. I mean, the whole thing obviously is education reform. At least that seems, I guess, is to be virtually connect people. I guess they're more connected to the education reform part of it. So now let's see what Graham's got.
Yeah. So I'll just read it out loud so that everybody who watches the recording as well can see it. Did anybody follow any of the sessions about text and data mining? Was wondering how things are progressing in Canada. So I have to admit I haven't been able to follow much of CC Summit so far due to some personal things. Not sure about you, Mark. I don't think it's your first Be Connecting session from CC Summit, is it?
No, it's not, but that hasn't come up in anything that I've seen. I haven't been in all the sessions.
Okay, so this seems like
I would
a case for
say
Twitter then. But go ahead, sorry.
I would say to Graham, did you see the session with Jesse Stommel and Chris Schaefer yesterday? I can't remember if you were there.
I don't think so.
Well, so I would just have you look to Chris Schaefer. He spells his name with a K, Kris Schaeffer. He's at the University of Mary Washington, where the Domain of One Owns project and DS-106 is from. And I took a class last summer, and he was in the class. We were classmates in their digital pedagogy lab. And oh, thank you. And Chris is he's the strongest data mining person I've ever met. He's just brilliant at it. So I just would suggest you reach out to him. And somebody dropped his Twitter in the box. So
yeah, I've been following for a couple of months or maybe even a year now, and he really does do some great stuff there. All right, so should we wrap this up? I'll stop the broadcast and we can continue to chat on if that's okay with you.
certainly.
Thanks for dropping in and see you next time.